Yeah, I don't have an intro for this one. This is just a straight-up Delaphobia warning. Huh. Was kind of expecting a bigger reaction than that. Probably because no one here knows what Delaphobia is. Sounds trendy. Huh. Of all the people to get it, I wasn't expecting it to be you.
So what is it then? Come on, don't leave us in suspense.
It's the fear of leeches and lamprey. Symbiosis, an interaction between two different organisms living in close physical association, typically to the advantage of both, such as the case of the Egyptian plover, which forms a symbiotic relationship with one of the most dangerous animals on the planet, the crocodile. The bird will pick tiny bits of meat out of the crocodile's teeth, preventing it from rotting in the croc's mouth and causing infection, while the bird gets a free meal and protection from its predators during the time of the feeding. In this idyllic scenario, everybody wins. And then there are relationships between two creatures where only one creature benefits in a way that is often detrimental to the other species. Such is the case of the candiru, a tiny species of catfish that is small enough to enter the gills of other fish, where it will use a spiked barb on its head to cut into the gills of its target, drinking their blood, and generally being a pain in the hole. If you know, you know. And our monster of today's discussion falls into both categories. For a very small handful of monsters, it's a useful partner in symbiosis. But for literally everything else in the world, the Qurio are the most horrific parasite of all time. So, in terms of visuals, there's not a lot going on here. They're literally red lamprey with big three-pronged wings and a three-pronged tail fin that makes them look like little flames flying through the sky. And of course, they have that horrific circular mouth of teeth, a pair of beady eyes, though we're not sure if those actually work or not, and a bunch of holes on them that probably function like a lamprey's gills. We don't know where the Qurio first originated from, but what we do know is they were first symbiotic partners of an elder dragon known as Geismagorm, a massive subterranean elder dragon of terrifying power that left giant craters in the ground wherever it emerged. We'll talk more about him later, but what you need to know for now is roughly 100 years ago, Geismagorm first appeared and was defeated by another elder dragon, Malzeno, who again we'll talk about more later, but during that time, the Qurio abandoned the defeated Geismagorm and instead allied themselves with Malzeno. So, as you may have guessed, with them being basically flying leeches, they are bloodsuckers. The teeth in that ring of a mouth they have are sharp and tough enough to puncture basically any material. No hide or scales or plating is safe from them. And they drain out not only the blood, but the very bioenergy of their target, draining their life force and empowering the Qurio. And a particularly motivated swarm can keep going until they've completely drained their target of all their vitality.
They jump at me! They jump at me! Save your boy!
Now, you may be wondering why these creatures need symbiosis instead of just being parasites. Well, as it turns out, the Qurio are not capable of producing vital nutrients they need to function, so they cannot survive without a host. So, they find an ideal host, which was originally Geismagorm, properly recycling the energy they had fed off and allowing the nutrients to be passed through their bodies and giving their host a boost in power, thanks to this new sudden wave of bioenergy fueling them. And this partnership also allowed the Qurio to evolve quite rapidly, although for whatever reason, their new partnership with Malzeno brought the parasites to an evolutionary dead end. So, what is the Guild's policy on handling the Qurio? Well, it's generally agreed upon there is only one acceptable response to spotting these airborne leeches.
You parasites!
So, as I said, the Qurio have teeth that can pierce through any material, so there's no monster they cannot consume blood from. And they are ravenous gluttons who will drain a monster of every last drop of blood in their body in order to get their meal. And their hunger is basically endless, almost rivaling Devil Joe, and much like the World Eater, they will go as far as to wipe out entire ecosystems in order to get their fill. And to make matters worse, in the event they don't drain enough blood to kill their target, they also infect them with a virus that makes them stronger and more aggressive. To the point, even the most peaceful monster will lash out at everything around them, very similarly to the Frenzy virus. And monsters that are aware of these creatures go as far to leave their natural habitat to escape the Qurio, entering new biomes and becoming invasive species, which causes even more havoc. So you might be wondering, okay, if this virus is like the Frenzy virus, can we get it and overcome it to use the benefits for ourselves? No, we cannot. This virus is fatal to humans without treatment. 100 years ago, during their first appearance, the Qurio were much smaller to the point they weren't even noticeable when they started sucking blood from humans like mosquitoes. And much like mosquitoes, transmitting their virus to plague-level proportions. Thankfully, there was a Wyverian doctor by the name of Tadori who managed to come up with a cure for the virus, curing the plague and eventually leaving the sickness all but forgotten. No, like literally, people forgot it was a thing. Seems like something that should have been kept on record, but what do I know? But unfortunately, this wasn't the end, because 50 years since the last incident, the Curios returned to feed for both them and their host and cause more havoc. And in these 50 years, the Qurio matured and everything about them became more potent, including the virus, becoming stronger than the cure for it could handle, requiring poison from an Espinas to overcome. You know, probably one of the top 3 most poisonous monsters of all time? But even then, they still weren't done growing and adapting because the virus would become even stronger, needing the even more potent poison of a flaming Espinas to combat, plus the soap secretion of a violet Mizutsune, basically a gasoline fire Mizutsune. So yes, to summarize, they can drain a body of all its vitality in a very little time, can and will wipe out entire ecosystems to get their fill, and can cause a plague that can only be cured with the secretions of some of the most dangerous monsters known to mankind.
But wait! There's more!
So eventually, both Malzeno and Geismagorm were slain, leaving the Qurio without a suitable host. So at this point, we figured it was over as, like I said, they cannot survive without a suitable host, and so we assumed they would just starve and die. But unfortunately, all we did was make them desperate, randomly searching for any new host they might be able to achieve symbiosis with. But most of these creatures were not compatible, simply getting hit with devastating doses of the Curio's virus, as well as an overwhelming increase to their bioenergy they could not handle. And so, afflicted with this horrible condition, these monsters were dubbed afflicted monsters. I think we're paying the person responsible for naming things too much. So, how are afflicted monsters different from their normal counterparts? Well, as I've said, they are flooded with an incomprehensible amount of the Qurio virus that makes them infinitely more aggressive and violent, to the point they can no longer even be captured. And they are literally overflowing with excess bioenergy given to them by the Qurio, to the point it even actively leaks out of their bodies. And if left unchecked, it will be unleashed from the monster in devastating explosions that harm anything around the monster, as well as the monster themselves. So they gain a massive boost in power, but all the drawbacks that come with it drastically shorten their lifespan. It is a death sentence. They will eventually die on their own, but the amount of damage they can and will cause in the meantime is too great to simply be ignored. Sadly, the only solution is to put them out of their misery and slay them. So, what's the best way to deal with afflicted monsters? Well, it's not too different from fighting the regular versions. They still have all the same moves and powers. They're just a lot stronger. But, like I said before, the excess bioenergy is literally leaking out of them, looking like small flames erupting from certain points of their body, plus the Qurio will be swarming that spot on them in particular, leaving those places as weak points, so attacking them will be extremely effective. And as a bonus, you'll probably take out a few Qurio too. Thankfully, that is the end of afflicted monsters. Unless Elder Dragons are involved.
Oh, come on!
Oh, dear God, I hope this damn letter gives me a reprieve from all the damn anomaly quests I have to go through. At least I get rid of all the damn Qurio around the area. Don't want to have a moment like, Oh, this letter's from Sierra, and it says, well, fuck.
So, much like how they are immune to the Frenzy virus, Elder Dragons are able to resist the virus they are given by the Qurio, and although it takes a while, they are able to overcome the disease and become stronger for it. The affliction is a death sentence, so overcoming it is like rising from the dead. Thus, these creatures are known as risen Elder Dragons, and they easily put their normal counterparts to shame, gaining a massive power boost and a new mastery over their powers their normal selves could only dream of. Risen Kushala Deora goes from a tropical storm to a Category 5 tornado. Risen Chameleos can probably drown you in poison. Risen Teostra goes from a forest fire to a nuclear bomb. Risen Shagaru Magala is a plague in its own right, and Risen Crimson Glow Valstrax is an orbital strike with dragon missiles. And so, that is the Qurio. I know I always try to put a positive spin at the end to make it seem like these creatures have a role in nature and should be valued or respected in some way, shape, or form. But this time, I simply can't do it. If ever there was a creature deserving to be called monsters, it's these things. They horrifically drain the blood from a target, sometimes until it dies, and in the instances they do survive, they become impossibly aggressive. They inflict a virus that can become plague-like in proportion, they cause monsters to flee from their environments and cause problems in new locations as invasive species. The only creatures that can survive them are Elder Dragons, which become greater threats than they already were, and if they can't find those, they create afflicted monsters that are constantly suffering until they are slain. These things simply should not exist. So, there you have it, everyone. That is the Qurio. Like I said, they're not much at first glance, basically just flying leeches, but with how important they are to the story and how much chaos they cause in the Monster Hunter world, I just felt they had to be talked about. And they're pretty important to Malzeno's story, so like I said, they were important and needed to be talked about. Like I said, these things are just absolute monsters that really shouldn't exist. The absolute chaos and carnage they create is just too much for any creature. Like I said, even most Elder Dragons aren't this much of a problem. Like, I can think of, like, Fatalis, Gore, and Shagaru Magala, and then these things, pretty much, are, like, the top 3 biggest threats in the entire Monster Hunter universe. So, yeah. But, okay, for next time, we are finally talking about Malzeno. I know you guys have been looking forward to this for the longest time, and I'm looking forward to talking to it, too. Malzeno has easily become probably one of my favorite Elder Dragons in a very short amount of time, and I am really looking forward to talking about it for all of you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully all of you guys are too. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this and want to see more, go ahead and slash that subscribe button. If you like this video, give a quick cut to the like button. Leave a comment down below. Share it around with all your friends. Be sure to click the notification bell so you never miss it when I upload a video. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Then I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, ladies and swordsmen, stay sharp.